up, everybody? Shane Barber here with CGMasterTraining, and today I want to show you how I can use Blueprint inside of Unreal Engine 4 to create really quick gameplay logic. The example we're going to have today is a jump pad that will allow our player to soar into the air and come back down unscathed. So let's get started. First thing I want to do is, in the content browser, I want to add a new game folder that will hold my jump pad files. So I'm going to call it jump pad. And inside of this, I'm going to then choose New Blueprint by right-clicking in the open space. Choose Blueprint, and I'm going to get a wizard that pops up and asks for me to pick a parent class that I want to use. So I want this thing to have a physical presence inside of the world, so I'm going to choose Actor. Alright, and it's created my new blueprint based off of Actor. So I'm going to call this Jump Pad. And I have my new blueprint available to me now. Double-clicking on it will bring up the blueprint editor. We're going to start off inside of this components view, which allows us to add the different types of pieces that end up making up an actor as a whole. Actors have a bunch of components, and each of those components can contain various logic or behaviors that they're supposed to do. So inside of this, I want to add a scene component. And what this does is it holds the transform data for the actor as a whole. So I've added that now as my root component, which allows me then to attach other components to that scene component. So in order to give it a mesh that we can actually see in the world, I'm going to choose static mesh component. You'll see that it's parented it up underneath the scene component here. And so that I can see it and reference it more clearly inside of Blueprint, I'm going to give it a variable name of jump pad, jump PDA, jump pad mesh. And this scene component, I'll just call it scene comp. Alright, so this jump pad mesh now needs to actually have a mesh that we actually show. So I'm just going to use the material preview mesh that Unreal has. Alright, it's a little large. So by adding that scene component earlier, I've allowed that to drive what the actor's scale should be. And this jump pad mesh, I can actually scale independently now because it's just attached to it. So I'm going to give it 0.5 to make it a little bit smaller so the character can actually walk over it. Alright, so we've scaled it down a little bit. And inside of here, I need to now go down. This static mesh is what we're going to use for actual collision events. And I need to come down and turn off its block all right now because nothing's going to be able to walk through it then. So I'm going to change that to overlap all, which allows things to go inside of it and actually allow collision events to take place. So it's not going to be pushing objects back now. Alright, so I've set that up. I'm going to come over here to my view and choose graph, so I can go inside the graph. And this is what the default, the logic graph ends up looking like. This is the blueprint event graph that we can use to define what the gameplay logic of this object should be. So on your left here, you have the My Blueprint panel, which actually contains all of your variables and all the functions, macros, graphs, event dispatchers, whatever it may be. It contains them all right here, so you can easily navigate throughout your blueprint using that. You can also use the navigation bar up here at the top, which will hold open each event graph or function graph that you've been creating. And then on the left, at the bottom, you'll have this details pane, which whatever you're currently selecting, it'll give you the options of how you can modify it inside of the event graph. You also have on the right, you have a palette that contains various favorite functions you use or just other functions inside of the engine as well. But we're going to start off by selecting our jump pad and right-clicking in the open space. And this is a context-sensitive menu that pops up based off of what you have selected or what nodes you are currently pulling off of. So I'm going to have my jump pad mesh selected right now, and it provides me the context menu that has all the available events that this jump pad mesh can use. So I'm going to choose Add On Component Begin Overlap. And that's when an object first starts to collide with our object. So that is my event that will fire off. And this other actor is the other actor that the jump pad has collided with, or that has collided with the jump pad. So I'm going to pull off of Other Actor, and by doing so, I've now popped up the context menu again, and this has all of the functions or variables that are relative to the other actor that I'm pulling off of. Well, I only want my functions to fire if the thing I'm colliding, that's collided with my jump pad, is a character. So I'm going to say cast to character, and by typing it in the top there, it'll end up giving you a real-time list of whatever you're currently searching for. So I've done cast a character, and what a cast is essentially we are saying that this object needs to be of this type, and if that object can't be casted to that type, for instance, a pickup might be descending from a different class than a character would. So a character and a pickup, the only thing that they actually share in common is maybe the actor class at the very top. Well, the two of them can be casted to an actor, but a pickup cannot be casted over to a character, and vice versa. So this is a way that we can check if the current object we are colliding with is a character, then I want it to fire off whatever logic is attached to this execution pin. But if it fails, then it just won't do anything. So now that I've casted the incoming actor to a character, I can access character-based properties by pulling off as a character. So I want to get this character's movement component. And what a movement component is just like the other components we added to this jump pad, a character has a movement component that contains all of the logic for how it should be able to move around in the world. So by pulling off of character movement component, or off of character and getting the movement component, I can now access things like set this character's movement mode. Movement mode. So in order for my character to be affected by physics, I need to change its movement mode from walking, which is the default state, into falling, so that he can actually be affected by physics impulses and forces and things along those sorts. So I'm going to come in here and choose falling. And now I can pull off of its character movement component again and say set velocity. So I've now set its velocity by doing that. And we're just going to say 5,000. Why not? So once I'm satisfied with that, I'm going to come up here to hit compile. And I should be able to place this object now inside of my game level and see it work. Alright, so there we are. Hit play. And now when I collide with it, it fires me into the air. Alright, that's pretty cool. Except that we actually want to give the designer the capacity to change certain values on this object as they're designing the level. So we don't want every jump pad to necessarily fire us 5,000 units into the air. So we're going to start by allowing some additional functionality to a designer. Easiest way to do that is we're going to come in here and change this velocity variable, and by right-clicking on the input pin, I can say promote this to a variable. And this ends up making an actual variable that we have access to here in the variables pane. So I'm going to say this should be the jump direction. Alright, so if I hit compile, you'll now notice up here in the defaults pane, I have this jump direction that I can set, which right now defaults to 5,000 units. Well, that's awesome, except I don't have that accessibility here on the actual instance of it inside the level. That doesn't help me. The only way I can change that value right now is by directly opening up the blueprint editor and changing it inside the defaults, which ends up making all jump pads use the same value. Well, so what we actually want to do is inside of this graph, back at the graph, I want to select my jump direction, and I want to expose this variable as being public and accessible to the editor. So you can do that in two ways. First one is you can click on this little eye, which ends up making it editable. And the second option is you can actually check this editable checkbox right here. And we're going to hit compile again, and now you'll notice that I have this jump direction as an option inside of the editor. So I can actually directly set this to, say, 1,000, and now this instance of that is going to use 1,000. And if I was to dupe this on over, I can set this one to have 3,000. So now you'll notice if I select the original, I'm still at 1,000. Alright, so that's pretty cool, except that what designer really wants to have to use this little widget to constantly change that value? Well, there's a faster way that we can, in a more visual way, that we can convey that to a designer. So if I open up the blueprint editor here, if you have something that is using either a vector or a transform, and you select it, you can use this Show 3D Widget option. So I'm going to select that, hit compile, and come back into the editor here. And you'll notice now that up above I have this little widget that I can move around. And I can change this widget, and you'll see that over here on the right, it's actually changing what that value is. So this is a visual way that a designer can see how much velocity they're going to impart on this object when it collides with it, with this character. So if I was to hit play from here now, I end up colliding with this guy. This one sends me up 3,000 units. Come back down. And I'm going to collide with this one, and I should only go up about 1,000 units. About 600. Alright, pretty cool. So the last thing I want to do is I want to come back into my blueprint editor here. And I just want to destroy this object once I have collided with it. So I'll say destroy actor. And you got to make sure that any additional logic you want to fire off after the destroy actor is not, you don't put anything after the destroy actor because it won't fire it. What happens is this actor, this object that is currently firing off that, it'll destroy itself, and then there's nothing else for Blueprint to fire off because the object no longer exists. So if you destroy an actor, put whatever logic you want it to do first at the beginning before you end up firing this destroy. So we end up coming back in here. I'm going to hit play again. Notice that when I collide with this object, boom, it is no longer there. Alright, so that's a really quick way that you can end up building a jump pad inside of Unreal Engine 4. And it's a quick start on how to use Blueprint in order to add gameplay logic to your game. So this is Shane Barber with CGMasterTraining, and I hope to be seeing you guys again soon.